Hey everyone, and welcome to the tutorial series for the Procedural City Generator. In this tutorial, we'll be taking a look at a brand new feature that I've included in the 1.1.1 update, and that is the ability to create corner buildings. So in this example, I've created a very simple city. I've selected a single road by using the road management. You can see here selected roads. If I go ahead and reset my batch and click on spawn road buildings, you'll see that we only have two types of buildings available right now. We have this residential home and we have this gas station. And if I go ahead and remove them and spawn them again, you'll see that we have basically the same setup except they're randomly selected. But what if I wanted to, for example, spawn this gas station only on the corners, right? A lot of these buildings that you may have, like a gas station, they may have more than one entrance. Maybe they have an entrance for the front and maybe an entrance for one of the sides. Or what if you have a building that has more than one front? You see that a lot in bigger cities, right? Maybe each entrance faces a specific road, right? And that was kind of the idea of having these buildings that only spawn in corners. So for the purposes of PCG, a corner would be at the beginning or at the end of a specific road. And to do that is actually very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and remove these road buildings and reset the batch. And if I scroll all the way down here, we're going to go down and look at the zone, which in this case is a residential zone. If I go under the building details, you see that we only have two buildings. We have the contemporary home and then we have the gas station. If I wanted to make the gas station a corner building, all we have to do now is under the building details, scroll all the way down to the new corner building options that you see here. We're going to expand it and we're simply going to select the option, spawn building in road corners. Then we're going to have an option of where we want to spawn it. We could do it on both sides of the road, or we can select left or right. And then we even have a separate percent chance to spawn right here. It's between 0 and 1. And this will be used instead of the percent chance to spawn that is the default up here. So just by selecting this, I'm going to scroll all the way down here and click on categorize buildings. If you make any changes to a zone and you mess with the buildings, you always want to come back here and click categorize buildings again to make sure that the changes are permutated correctly here. Now I go back and I click on spawn road buildings, and notice now that the gas station is only spawning on the corner. So right now, by virtue of being random, we just selected this corner here, and then it selected this corner here. So let's try again, reset the batch, click again, and now see that the gas station is now on this corner here and on this corner here. Very cool. Now notice that no matter how many times I spawn it, for some reason the gas stations are not spawning one in front of the other, even though technically they could. The reason for that is because we have one more setting that we're respecting when we're selecting corner buildings, and that is a minimum distance right here. So by default, the gas station has a minimum distance of 20,000 units. So it will, so the spawner will use these options, but at the very end, it will check and do a trace and say, hey, is there any other building of this type within this distance? And if there is, it will not spawn it. That is the reason why you do not see gas stations spawning in front of each other. If I remove this, and again, go down and click on categorize buildings, reset my batch, and spawn the road, notice that now the gas stations are obviously spawning on both sides at the beginning and at the end of the road. So it's up to you to decide how you want your buildings to spawn. If it is a building that can spawn on both sides, either side, well, obviously you'll choose that. If you only want a specific side, maybe this gas station only has an entrance maybe on the front and on the right, then you can choose that option. So let's go ahead and see how that works. Let's go back to our gas station here, and let's go ahead and we'll keep this minimum distance off, but instead of spawn on both sides, we'll simply say spawn on the right side of the road. And let's go ahead and reduce the spawn chance to something like 50% for now. That means that if it's going to have a 50% chance to spawn. If it doesn't spawn, a regular building that is not a corner building will spawn. So the spawner will try one time to pick a corner building. If that corner building cannot spawn, then a regular building that is a non-corner will spawn. That's another thing that is important to realize there. Let's go back and click on categorize, reset, spawn road buildings. And notice that we didn't get anything now because again, we have a 50% chance to spawn. And you can see that now we're spawning one in this corner. And now we're spawning one on both. Again, 50% chance, but it's always on the right. What if we wanted to do another one that was only available on the left? And we actually have a building like that on the commercial zone, which is kind of interesting. So the first building right here is going to be apartment 1A. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this struct and I'm going to go back to my residential zone here and we're going to add the building. So click on the plus and just right click and paste. It'll paste all the info. And right here you see that we have commercial building 1. We're not going to touch anything here. All we'll say is at the bottom, we're going to the corner building options. We'll say that this is a corner building, but we only want it on the left hand side. And you'll see why in a minute. Go down, click on categorize buildings again, reset the batch, spawn road buildings, and now you see why I wanted to have this building on the left hand side. Notice that this building actually has two different entrances. Just by the way that it's designed, you have the actual espresso bar on the left hand side, which kind of coincides with this road. And then you have Julia's Mode, which is, I guess, like a cool little cafe here on this side of the road. So if you have a building like this, for example, that has two entrances, this would be a perfect category to make it a corner building on the specific side. Notice that right now there is no distinction between the beginning and the end of the road, right? Maybe that's something that we'll put in the future, but that should give you guys a lot more flexibility. Also notice that a corner building cannot be selected to be a regular building. So if you select it as a corner building, it will only be available for the corners of each road. And if it's not a corner building, then it's available at any time. So there are some small restrictions there, but again, in very specific use cases where you just want to have a building be at the corner so it can match two different roads, now you have the option to do that. This was actually a suggestion from a community member on Discord. I talked to him about this and he explained kind of his use cases. He's trying to do more of a European style city with a lot of the buildings have multiple entrances. And this was a very nice way of giving him that option. So if you have such buildings, now you have the option of spawning them in the corners. All right, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to leave your comments down below. If you haven't joined our Discord, there's a link in the video description. Come join us. I am way more active there. You'll be able to talk to me a lot quicker than leaving a comment here. And if you have any questions or even suggestions that you would like to see in PCG, go ahead and join our Discord and let me know. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you in the next video.